While monasteries were flourishing in Ireland, the rest of Europe was in the Dark Ages. Barbarians were raping, pillaging and burning across the old Roman world, including Britain. Refugees fled to Ireland, bringing with them the more civilized aspects of Roman living and culture. This included Latin, writing, Greek and Roman books, and new ideas. Thus the advent of Christianity also brought the classical knowledge of ancient Greece and Rome. There was a flowering of culture as the best of Roman civilization filtered into Irish society. The result was a blend of traditions rather than a conversion. Christianity developed in a unique and highly sophisticated Celtic way. In the monasteries, the monks, having learned to read and write, started documenting Irish folklore. Later, they copied all the literature they could find. By so doing, they preserved 12 centuries of Greek, Roman, and Judeo-Christian knowledge and culture, which would otherwise have been lost. Once the barbarians had settled down, this was all reintroduced into Europe. Celtic Christianity therefore embraced more than the teachings of the Bible. It was embellished by knowledge of earlier Greek and Roman civilizations. I suspect it was this fusion of ideas that was to evolve into the British democratic tradition. Irish monks labouring in Christian monasteries thus saved ancient civilization for posterity. They did so with great care and devotion, producing magnificent illuminated manuscripts, written in a clear round script with astonishing skill and artistry. Examples of their work can be seen in museums such as that at Trinity College, Dublin, which I visited as a schoolboy in 1949. In later decades, this copying of ancient manuscripts was taken up by the monks in places like Iona and Lindisfarne. In the 7th century, the Muslims followed this example in their own extensive new empire. In the 8th century, the work was continued by Charlemagne. At Charlemagne's court, the rounded Irish writing was developed into the Carolingian script that nowadays forms the foundation of the many fonts on our computers. Many of the copies were lavishly illustrated and illuminated with rich and elaborate bindings and sent by Charlemagne as court presents all over Europe. By the 13th century, it was probably Greek mathematics, such as the theorems of Pythagoras and Euclid, that made possible the construction of the Gothic cathedrals. But for the most part, Charlemagne's gifts lay forgotten in monastic libraries. Then, at the beginning of the 15th century, they were rediscovered by the Florentines and avidly studied. Their full value was at last appreciated, and their revelations fueled the Renaissance. Cosimo de' Medici built the library of St. Marco to house them. One wonders where the world would be today without the foresight, learning, and industry of those 6th century Celtic Christian monks in Ireland. The monasteries inspired missionaries who set out to teach their knowledge to the peoples of Britain and Europe. For us, the most important of these was Columba. He is reputed to have been born in 521, the younger son of an Irish king. He was an energetic and charismatic character, a poet, priest, and sage, having been educated by a succession of holy men. He acquired a reputation for miracles and prophecies. His early life was spent travelling throughout Ireland, preaching, baptizing, and founding churches and monasteries, such as at Derry in 546. Then in 563, at the age of 42, he sailed off to live in pilgrimage for Christ's sake, as the histories say, and to preach God's word to Scots and to Britons and to Saxons. He founded the famous monastery on Iona, which became the centre of Celtic Christianity in Scotland. The early kings of Scotland were crowned and buried there. From Iona, other missionaries set out to convert the Picts. St. Macha is reputed to have converted the king of the Picts, and founded the city of Aberdeen. St. Aidan founded the famous monastery at Lindisfarne. Browsing the history books, one gets the impression that by the time Augustine arrived in Canterbury from Rome in 597, most of Britain supported Celtic Christian missions. If the United Kingdom had a patron saint, it would have to be St. Columba, and none of this was taught at school. Here is part of the lavish illumination of the Book of Kells.